Cultivate peace and power through hell and heaven. Have you ever had a really deep meditation before where everything gets still, you come into stillness, you come into more samadhi? What you feel at that state, it's not tiredness, it's not apathy, it is peace and power. And that is the essence of your spirit. And the whole journey on earth here to me is cultivating your peace and power through everything we must face and through the full spectrum of the human experience. My name is Christian. Welcome back to my philosophical, spiritual musing channel. On my path of building businesses, building great relationships, I just share, what's most alive for me. And I wrote a Substack recently, a newsletter, and it started with, "You are made in the image and likeness of God, and God is unshakable peace. All the experiences we have here on earth are here to help us reclaim that peace, to remind us of that peace." And whether or not you're religious or spiritual or atheist, I think that we can all kind of agree on the fact that we are dual in nature. We have this earthly, mortal experience where we have successes and failures, ups and downs. We have to deal with all the pains and fatigue and attachments that live in our body, okay? We also have a spiritual nature or a divine nature, and I think of it as the superior self. And the superior self, my friends, is unbothered, fearless, and peaceful. He's unbothered, fearless, and peaceful because in my mind, he has consumed hundreds of lifetimes. This shit doesn't faze him, right? And I think the whole journey on earth, in some sense, is cultivating, that deeper part, that deeper relationship within you to all of life, to God, to your essence. And it's amazing that people don't really talk about this anymore. We don't talk about this in our materialistic world, and to be spiritual is woo, to be religious there's a lot of dogma there. I respect it all, but ultimately, we need to bring back the conversation that it doesn't matter, how much success you have at the end of the day, or even all the joys you experience in life and all the failures and all the heaviness, it's all gonna be gone one day. All of this is gonna feel like a distant dream. Even what you loved the most, 5 years ago, you can barely remember it right now, right? So at the end of the day, as we're going through life, what are we cultivating? Are we cultivating a greater relationship to life that is more joyful, that is more light and more free? And are we cultivating a relationship to ourself that is true, that is rooted, that, perhaps is immortal, right? So that's how I look at my spiritual quest here. And I think the idea of a spiritual quest of a warrior, it's kind of woo, but ultimately what that means to me is the cultivation of peace and power through this life, okay? Because that is the essence of who you are. Now, in that article I wrote, I talked a lot about how the nervous system, it holds attachments to a certain way of being, right? That you picked up really early as a kid, for instance, the way I write and the way I used to play video games was tight, right? And to change that relationship in my nervous system to bring more lightness into my work has really changed how much energy and joy I feel while I'm working. It's the same thing with addictions. It's the same thing with emotions. We hold on to these things so deeply in our body. And I think this is one reason the Bible said fasting and praying was so important, right? This process of purging, of releasing attachments, of releasing emotion from our bodies so we can come back to our natural state. My friends, if you don't feel peaceful joy most days, it's because you have attachments and you have blockages in your nervous system. Your nervous system has heaviness inside of it. And especially for the men out there who are like me, who are ambitious, forward-leaning, and trying to build businesses and relationships and tackle all of life. Why does this happen every time I make a video? The damn garbage truck. But for those who are like me, who are type A, who are wanting to build an awesome freaking life, this is so important. It's so important to bring lightness into it all and have a spiritual practice that's about a relationship to peace and power. Now, I have this archetype of a seeker. Okay, in the sense of oftentimes when I meditate, it's about trying to hit this peak experience of samadhi. Oftentimes so often in life, I'm seeking something. I'm seeking an outcome. I'm seeking the pinnacle. I'm seeking, and it's awesome. Like that kind of conviction in a vision is important, but it creates heaviness. Ambition and like conviction, it creates the heaviness of pride. It creates the heaviness of an identity. And I think the thing in this video, what I'm trying to point out to you is as you go through hell, which is attachments, okay? Hell is attachments. As you go through hell, in terms of attachment to people, attachments to certain states of being, attachments in your nervous system, attachments to emotion, purging those creates heaven, okay? Purging attachments creates heaven. And now, as you're going through attachments, I think the way is to cultivate a bit more faith and a bit more lightness, right? Just like a little bit more playfulness. Hey, I'm going through heartbreak right now. I'm going through hell. This too shall pass. This too shall be a distant dream one day. And I'm going to enjoy it, right? Hey, I'm going through overwhelm. I'm feeling a lot of sickness or pain in my body. How can I bring more lightness into that, right? More faith. And faith is like this subtle connection to the deep mind, I feel like. It's just this subtle smile, this knowing it's going to be all right, even death, even suffering, even grief. It's just like, whatever. I have faith. And I think this is a relationship that you cultivate for a lifetime to bring more faith, to bring more peace, to bring more power into our experience here. One nuance. When I say that attachments are hell, I do think that we are meant to create attachments in life, right? That's what life is. We create attachments to our parents. We create attachments to our lover. We create attachments to our family. And secure attachment's awesome. But ultimately, like even just go to a party, go to, a social event and realize all the attachments you have to having people look at you a certain way, for having them like you, attachments you have to outcomes in life as an entrepreneur, right? Attachments you have to a certain relationship with spirit, attachments you have to a certain way of being. Maybe you love processing and analyzing everything. Maybe you have attachments to a certain... Notice these things, my friends, and bring more peace and bring more power. Like anything that is blocking you from peace and power is out of alignment with your life. This is what I'm realizing. Lightness. It's so weird. One last tangent here. It's so weird that we look at role models. Like for me, I look at role models like Alex Hormozi, Alexander the Great, Christ, Francis Bacon. Like I look at these guys and like Alex Hormozi is just one of the living ones. Same with, there's a couple others. He's just on the business side of things, but I have quite a few different role models that I enjoy. And I just at some point you have to realize that you are not them, okay? You are not them. And your highest success and flourishing is going to be on the path that is most peaceful and powerful. And these are contradictions. It's like, how can you have the discipline, the ambition, the will to create power in your life, right? To create resources and influence in your life. And also, how can you have peace while doing it? This is the goal. This union of power and peace is literally the ideal of life. And your expression of power and peace is different than Hormozi. It's different than Alexander the Great. It's different than Christ. It's different than Napoleon. It's different than any man that you look up to, right? It's your combination of peace and power. And this paradox is beautiful. It creates tension. It's like, how can I work with deep ambition and yet not care at all? To be ambitious but not ambitious. To be in activity but be restful while you're doing it, right? This is like the paradox that all these like deep spiritual texts like Taoism, like yoga, like Buddhism, even Christianity and esotericism to some degree, they point to. It's how do you hold paradox of peace and power together? Because if you're just pursuing power, you're going to start feeling heavy, and life is going to start feeling meaningless because you're lacking the lightness, the peace, the love. And if you just pursue lightness and peace and love, you're going to lack the actualization of your purpose. So as someone who is building awesome things in this world, how can you bring more peace and lightness and humility into that? Because that is the essence of a king. If we think about a king, again, what does a king embody? He is peaceful. He is open in his nervous system, open in his body, open in his mind, and is radiating spiritual power. That is the archetype that we're heading towards. My name is Christian. If you want to talk to me one-on-one and join my men's academy or even my inner circle, helping entrepreneurs and just like building brotherhood out here, there's a link below to talk to me one-on-one. Thanks for being here, my friends. Peace.